As Scotland's independence referendum on Friday draws nearer, alarms are going off on both sides of the Atlantic about the possible breakup of the United Kingdom. Even Queen Elizabeth II, the ultimate above all politics monarch, is taking a stand. Though careful, subtle and mild, her comments were instantly seized upon by the No campaign, desperate to keep Scotland from bolting after 300 years of legal union and 400 years of royal union. "Think very carefully about the future," she said to well-wishers in Scotland after church on Sunday, in an exchange that palace officials invited the media to observe, itself an unprecedented move. "It's not much, but it's something for the No side, as polls continue to show the vote is too close to call." The politicians have shouted until they're hoarse. Prime Minister David Cameron was practically in tears as he begged Scotland not to go this week. The economists have exhausted all their warnings about the consequences of independence: jobs losses, higher taxes, economic ruin. And caravans of celebrities have been dueling for months about whether Scotland should go or stay. Sean Connery, Alan Cumming and Annie Lennox are for it, J.K. Rowling, Mick Jagger and Judi Dench are against it. In Britain's peculiar constitutional monarchy, the Queen and her family can't take sides in politics, even when it's an issue that could directly affect them. This Queen has been dutiful about following the rules for more than 60 years on the throne. The No side has resorted to raising questions about what happens to the royals in an independent Scotland. Will Scots still sing "God Save the Queen"? Opponents of independence, such as the Times of London, say the Queen is on their side, quoting unnamed royal sources who say she is horrified at the prospect of a breakup. Unionists also have seized hopefully on the just-announced second royal pregnancy for Prince William and Duchess Kate as a sentimental reason for Scots to stay. The Scottish nationalists insist nothing will change about the royals. The Queen will still be Queen of Scots, just as she's still Queen of Canada and Australia. She'll still keep her castles and estates, and the national anthem will still be played for her. But would Prince Charles be the next king as Charles III? Maybe not. Nationalist leaders have suggested Scots will vote at some later date on whether to keep the monarchy after the Queen has died. It could get really interesting if she dies soon because Charles is not nearly as popular, says Elizabeth Cawthon, an expert on British constitutionalism who's also Associate Dean of the College of Liberal Arts at the University of Texas. Her personal presence on the throne guarantees a certain civility and respect for the English monarchy, and it's based on her iconic status. Experts in London agree. "My absolute conviction is that once the Queen goes, the Scots won't wear Prince Charles, and they will go for a republican system within the European Union," predicts Stephen Haisler, an expert on the monarchy who runs the Global Policy Institute think tank in London, speaking to the Daily Mail. The Queen's only previous on-the-record comment about Scottish independence came during her Silver Jubilee in 1977 when Scotland was then debating devolution, greater independence from London. "I number kings and queens of England and of Scotland and princes of Wales among my ancestors, and so I can readily understand these aspirations for devolution. But I cannot forget that I was crowned Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland," she said at the time. Perhaps this jubilee is a time to remind ourselves of the benefits which union has conferred, at home and in our international dealings, on the inhabitants of all parts of this United Kingdom. The main reason Scotland is in the UK today is because 400 years ago, the Queen's remote ancestor, a Scots king of the Stuart dynasty, became James I of England. And then, 100 years later, his great-granddaughter, Queen Anne, oversaw the 1707 law that officially united the two kingdoms. One strategy of those campaigning to keep the UK together has been to raise doubts about the fate of the Windsor dynasty, to the point where opponents of independence have even discussed publicly whether Scotland might bring back the Stuart dynasty instead. The Telegraph even noted that a direct descendant of the last Stuart is a Spanish noblewoman, the Duchess of Alba, the richest woman in Spain, who's 87 with famously frizzy hair, and has a 62-year-old husband and a $5 billion fortune. Cawthon says the Windsors tend to be calm about constitutional crises. They take the very long-range view, she says, especially Charles, who is something of a historian. Historians know that the relationship between England and Scotland has ebbs and flows, and I would guess that when the royals discuss among themselves, they say, well, we've seen this kind of thing before with Scotland, it's another form of Scots being independent-minded, let's not make too much of it. On the other hand, she says, there's another reason for royals to worry if the vote is yes to independence. What message would that send to quietly restive Wales, part of Britain since the 13th century, not to mention loudly restive Northern Ireland, under English control since the 12th century? If it's yes, Wales has to be thinking, says Cawthon,